All right, over to Leicester City. The Guardian is reporting that the EFL wants to charge Leicester with a PSR breach if they do get relegated this year from the Premier League. Is this possible?
Yes, I've been looking into this a bit further, and it does seem possible. If we remember, the loophole that got Leicester out of the situation was because they extended their accounting period. They were actually in the Premier League when they were in the EFL when those issues happened. So the EFL and I say, okay, then you're in the EFL, and we will go back and we will charge you. And I think it is correct. If there had been a breach, just getting off on a technicality like that, I think it makes sense that the authorities do try and clamp down on that. The EFL, I think, have a pretty clear case, and I think they will go ahead. I think there's a real desire from both the Premier League and the EFL to try and make sort of league shifting not a loophole anymore. And this is one area where they can, actively enforce their rules. So I think that Leicester have got that potential problem if they get relegated. That's why it's a big incentive for them to be staying in the Premier League this year. And I think that it's going to be shaky, but they're going to be going at it.
And since the EFL and the Premier League kind of feel that Leicester, used a loophole, could we see them go extra strong with the punishment on Leicester if they were to get relegated, therefore potentially giving them a big enough points deduction for multiple relegations thereafter?
I don't think that would be the case. I think there's already now precedent being set with Everton and Notts Forest that are going to give guidance to anybody in terms of points deductions. Where I think it would be the case is that on appeal, they may not have the mitigating circumstances of saying that they had cooperated fully. And so that's where it may affect them in terms of not being able to get those points deductions reduced. So that's one area that I think that would affect them more.
And how many years would Leicester have to stay in the Premier League in a row to outlast the CFL charge? Is there a statute of limitations that eventually runs out, or they could get relegated in 5 years and face these same issues?
Haven't quite worked that out, but my gut instinct is I would think it'd probably be 3 years that they have to stay in the Premier League, and then that rotation of PSR would be done by that time. So that would be my feeling. I'd have to go and check my rule book again on that, but I think it would be 3 years. So that's a big task to stay in the Premier League for 3 years for Leicester. Hey, but listen, they're there and they've got a chance, so that's all they can hope for.
No doubt. And speaking of staying in the Premier League, Steve Cooper is apparently having trouble winning over the dressing room. How will the board react to that?
They've got to back the manager. They've got to back Steve Cooper. He's proven that he's handled very tricky situations before at Forest with very, should we say, owners that perhaps get involved in perhaps more than they should do sometimes. So I think he's got to do that. I think that the owners at Leicester, though, won't be interfering. I think they'll back the manager. But as we just discussed, they're in a very precarious situation. They need a happy ship right now. They need real team bonding to get together. And I watched the game against Everton at the weekend, and Leicester did not seem like a happy group. It's got to be said. There wasn't quite the energy that I would have expected from them. So they've got to back Steve Cooper. Look, I think he's a decent manager from all I've heard. People say that he's very good in the dressing room. So, look, we've got to see how that plays out. But certainly, often those rumours are put around for the wrong reasons by other people. So we have to be sure that they're correct. But I'd be a fan of Cooper's at the moment.
And in your experience, does a manager get a bit of a shorter leash with the performances if the players aren't taking to him, or that doesn't have much of an effect from the board level?
No. Listen, obviously the board level are always looking to see from their senior players what the reaction is. Very rarely have I been around the fact that we've actually gone and sought out players and asked their opinion. But you always pick it up. You know it from other staff that you may speak to. It becomes pretty clear. But you've got to let the manager manage, and you've got to, you can't just give in when every player's upset. Otherwise, there'd be, the whole thing would just fall apart. So you've got to back your manager. But yes, it does become apparent when there is a breakdown, and particularly a problem if there are 2 or 3 key players that you're relying on to perform. And if 1 or 2 of those are sort of united together against the manager, it does become an issue. But I think we're too early in the season yet to see how that could be shaping up at Leicester. And I hope it isn't for Steve Cooper's sake and for Leicester's sake.